Gautam Buddha's teachings revolve around the concept of liberating oneself from ignorance. He believed that ignorance is the root cause of suffering and that true happiness and enlightenment can only be achieved by eliminating ignorance from our lives. Here are some key teachings from Gautam Buddha on this subject. 1. The Four Noble Truths. Buddha's first teaching revolves around the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is the existence of suffering, dukkha, in life. The second truth suggests that craving and attachment are the causes of suffering. The third truth proposes that suffering can be eradicated by eliminating desires and attachments. The fourth truth outlines the Eightfold Path as a means to achieve liberation from suffering. 2. The Five Aggregates. Buddha taught that human existence is made up of five aggregates, which are form, physical body feeling, sensations and emotions perception, mental recognition mental formations, thoughts and volition and consciousness. He emphasized that these aggregates are impermanent and empty of inherent self-identity. Understanding this helps one detach from the illusion of a fixed self and overcome ignorance. 3. The Law of Dependent Origination. Buddha introduced the teaching of dependent origination, which explains the interconnectedness of phenomena and the causes of suffering. He taught that suffering arises due to the cycle of dependent origination, where ignorance leads to the formation of karmic actions, which in turn perpetuate the cycle of birth, aging and death. By understanding and breaking this cycle, one can liberate oneself from suffering. 4. Mindfulness and insight. Buddha emphasized the practice of mindfulness and developing insight, vipassana, into the nature of reality. Mindfulness involves being fully present in the present moment, observing one's thoughts, feelings and sensations without judgment. Through sustained mindfulness, one can gain insight into the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self nature of all phenomena, thus undoing the ignorance that causes suffering. 5. The Middle Way. Buddha emphasized the importance of finding a balanced path between extreme asceticism and indulgence. He taught that liberation from suffering can be attained through following the middle way, a path of moderation, ethical conduct, mental cultivation and wisdom. By cultivating virtuous behavior and avoiding extremes, one can overcome ignorance and attain enlightenment. Gautam Buddha's teachings about liberating oneself from ignorance form the core principles of Buddhism. By understanding and practicing these teachings, individuals can strive towards enlightenment and ultimately free themselves from the cycle of suffering. Here is a story about liberate yourself from ignorance. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a young man named Siddhartha. From a very early age, Siddhartha had developed a keen interest in exploring the mysteries of life and finding true happiness. Inspired by this inner calling, he ventured out into the world seeking wisdom from various philosophers and teachers. One day Siddhartha heard about a renowned sage called Gautam Buddha. Deeply intrigued, he decided to travel far and wide to seek the guidance of this enlightened master. After months of travel, Siddhartha finally arrived at the place where Gautam Buddha was delivering a sermon on the nature of ignorance and its role in causing suffering. Curious and eager to learn, Siddhartha eagerly joined the gathering, listening attentively to every word that Buddha spoke. The sage explained that ignorance is the root cause of all suffering. He taught that ignorance takes numerous forms such as attachment delusion and the failure to acknowledge the transient nature of existence. As the sermon continued, Siddhartha realized that to overcome ignorance one must liberate oneself from it. He understood that the first step towards enlightenment was to become aware of one's own ignorance and its influence on thoughts, actions, and perceptions. Inspired by Buddha's teachings, Siddhartha approached him later in the day and sought further guidance. Buddha, recognizing Siddhartha's earnestness, shared a story to illustrate the importance of deliberate self-awareness. Buddha narrated the tale of a young farmer who inherited a vast and fertile land from his ancestors. The farmer, however, had never been taught how to cultivate the land or tend to the crops. Ignorant of the necessary farming techniques, he struggled to yield fruitful harvests and provide for his family. One day, a wise old farmer passing by noticed the young farmer's struggle. Out of compassion, he approached the young man and offered his guidance. The wise farmer taught him essential farming techniques, emphasized the significance of patience and hard work, and advised him to be mindful of the changing seasons. With this newfound knowledge and self-awareness, the young farmer diligently applied the teachings, tending to his land with care and attention. Gradually his crops flourished abundantly, and he began to reap the rewards of his deliberate efforts. Buddha concluded the story stating that just as the young farmer overcame his ignorance through deliberate action, individuals must also cultivate self-awareness and actively engage in practices that foster enlightenment and freedom from suffering. Overwhelmed with gratitude and determination, Siddhartha realized that he must now embark on his own journey of self-reflection and inner growth. With Buddha's blessings, he began meditating and seeking ways to consciously detach himself from ignorance, attachments, and delusions that hindered his quest for truth. Days turned into months and months turned into years as Siddhartha dedicated himself to self-discovery and enlightenment. Finally, through his relentless pursuit of truth and deliberate efforts to overcome ignorance, Siddhartha achieved a profound awakening, becoming known as Gautam Buddha's most enlightened disciple. Inspired by his own transformation, Siddhartha, who was now called Gautam Buddha, spent the rest of his life teaching others the path to deliberate self-awareness and the profound liberation it brings. His teachings, known as the Dharma, continue to guide seekers on their journey towards enlightenment and freedom from the shackles of ignorance.